All right, guys, welcome back. Boots Come in Pairs. Take a little bit of a hiatus here, but we are back talking baseball again. First off, congratulations to the Kane County Cougars. We got the hat on tonight. They won the American Association, which is a MLB partner league, which I think was recently announced. So that's cool that they're not affiliated, but they're still involved. But childhood team for us, always fun to see them win something. Minor league baseball, a lot of fun too. But just a cool thing. They play up here too in Milwaukee, so they have the same league going on. But just nice to follow that still. And again, here we are a year later that we've been doing this podcast, and we are also in the same position with the Cubs. Still frustrating. Still not making the playoffs. Still with the same record. And we had Craig Counsell this week kind of show some emotion, show some frustration even, which is, I think he holds it in well. He's good for this roster. But basically he just said this team's not good enough. You know, you got to win 90 games. You got to build towards 90 games. There's a lot of distance between the Cubs and these playoff teams. They're 7 games out of the wild card. That's just what it is. They're 10 games behind the Brewers. Do they have more talent than the Brewers? Maybe. But they're behind them, right? And that's basically what Craig's saying. And he kind of sent a clear message to the front office is like, hey, this is not a winner, which we've been saying since we talked to Jeremy about it. So what's your initial reaction to the comments Craig Counsell made?
It's tough, man. And it is wild to be in the same kind of spot and the same kind of things have been happening. I think last year they were playing a little bit better up to these last few games. It was kind of those last few series where they really fell off. We were in Arizona it would have been about last week or this week a year ago, and that was kind of the downfall, right? They were blowing games. They weren't scoring runs when they needed to score runs. Ultimately ended up falling. It is tough, and I'm glad that Craig is being honest. He hasn't been in a position where he's been on a non-playoff team in quite some time. He's been in the playoffs, granted not winning series in the playoffs, but making it there. The biggest thing with this team is not even talking about this year as much, but kind of moving into next year. A lot of the same faces are going to be around. You got the same. You're going to have the same up the middle. You're probably going to have the same at the corners. You're going to have the same outfield / DH. They're saying that Cody Bellinger is probably going to opt in. You're pretty much going to have the same team, at least a lot of the same faces. So if you're Craig and you say that this team's not good enough and you're returning a lot of the same faces, like what do you do? There's for sure room to add, especially in the bullpen and in the starting rotation. There's a lot of really impressive names on that starting pitching free agent list. Corbin Burns, Max Fried, to name 2 of them. Roshi Sasaki from Japan is rumored to be coming over, the 22-year-old kid. They say the Cubs have shown interest in him. But yeah, when it comes down to it, the offense has been a problem too. But you're returning a lot of the same faces, so what do you do? You got a lot of great players. They do a lot of dynamic things. They're fast. They're athletic. They have pop. They have shown that they can be dynamic, play small ball, drive in runs. But when you go through these outages at times where you get shut out by the Yankees 2 games in a row, you get shut out by the Pirates in the series before. I just don't know if there's anything like what is Craig going to have to do to get this same cast to that next level.
Well, and he's certainly gotten the most out of this roster. We could see from the beginning the pitching staff and the bullpen just wasn't built to win, and that's kind of what he's calling out. He said flat out, he goes, it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful to do what we need to do, and that might be moving on from a guy like Nico Horner, who I love seeing out there. But it's like, hey, if we can improve this position offensively and sacrificing a glove, it's like, do we do that? Seiya Suzuki's got a no-trade clause, and he's been great at the plate. But as a DH, his numbers don't show that, right? Like, he's not if he could play outfield at a high caliber level, say he has Jason Hayward's glove and speed, and he hits 20 home runs and hits 280, that's fine. But you can't be the DH and not produce higher volumes number. This is a huge home run league, and he's your DH at 20 home runs because he can't field the position. We've said that many times, and we've seen it. He just can't field it. So I mean, Craig is playing this roster to the best of its ability. I'm tired of seeing Patrick Wisdom pinch hit, but we know this about Craig Counsell. He uses his entire roster top to bottom. Miles Mastrobuoni is up. He's going to put him in the lineup because who else is he going to do? He's going to put the best defensive lineup out there for the ninth inning, and that sometimes includes Miles Mastrobuoni, which sucks. I mean, the bullpen, you can get mad at the way he uses it. He's using the pitchers he has. Right. He did it in Milwaukee. I mean, he burned Josh Hader out sometimes, but that's the only guy he had. And you got to win these games? Okay, Hader going out there again. 2 innings, you betcha. And it's you can't fault Craig. Anyone who says this is Craig Counsell's fault is not paying attention. This roster was not constructed to win a playoff game, a World Series, and apparently even a division title because they're not even winning the regular season. So that needs to change, and you're right. There's not a lot they can do because there's so many stationary pieces, but they have to do something, and it might be a little painful, and we might see some names that we like go away.
Right, and maybe in a more subtle Craig-like way, he's showing the front office and the organization I don't have what I need. I'm using everything that I have, and it's not good enough. And it's not good enough.
There's nothing subtle about what he said. He was animated and basically said outright, "This isn't the team."
Right,
because it's
but
not.
More so, I'm just saying the way that before dropping the bomb, subtly he's not in his words until very recently. But in just the way that he managed the team, using everything, using everyone, he wasn't burning out a particular guy. It was just everybody. It was a combination of, all right, well, you got me Hector Neris to be the closer of this team. He proved that he could not be the closer of this team, and is probably one of the sole reasons that they're not in the playoff picture right now because of how poorly he pitched. But this is my ninth inning guy that you gave me, and he didn't step up to the plate.
Well, really, it was Adbert Alzolay, and would that have gone any better? He didn't pitch well when he pitched, and then he had a season-ending injury. And to be honest with you, he had an okay stretch last year, but before that, he was erratic as a starter. So, I don't understand the whole construction. I think that's why there's been friction in the front office, and they're like, oh, does that include Craig Counsell? No, Craig Counsell's on the field. He's playing your roster. There's friction between Carter Hawkins and Jed Hoyer and probably Ricketts. That's probably where the friction's coming. It's hey, Ricketts is I want a winner. I don't want to spend the money on a winner, but I want a winner. And then what are we doing to accommodate that? Paredes has played better the last couple of weeks. He's hitting better. Dansby's come back. I know. Yes. Thank you for releasing him. He's doing great for me.
Well, I'm glad for you. First of all, you're in a spot further than me in the playoffs. But I'm glad for him because Dansby's a great guy, and he is a great defensive player, and he's proven the second half that he's a really good hitter. He's hitting over 290, I think, since the break. Power's there. He's not making any mistakes in the field. He is showing that he is the guy, man.
Defensively, it's just every night he does something. And again, that never goes away. And that's why I love watching players like that. Even if you're struggling at the plate, you always have your glove on. You always have to contribute there. But and that's Carter Hawkins was saying earlier in the year, don't panic. You look at the back of the baseball card at the end of the year, the numbers will look correct. Well, they do. But the bullpen and the pitching staff, and then they're just lacking a bat. They need one more bat, right? They've needed it the whole year. Or two. PCA has figured it out. Okay, good. It was a good developmental year.
He's looked excellent at times for sure.
But you know what? You want what the Brewers have done. You want Churio, who struggled early, and now looks phenomenal. He's hitting over 270. He has 20 homers. That's what you want. You want a spot for these guys to develop while you win, not because in place of winning. It's because there was a stretch where they were almost relying on that bottom of the order to pull through, and it's Miguel Amaya and PCA were not figuring it out. So it's just something's going to change. I don't know if Jed's on the hot seat. but they're almost like lost without a direction because these prospects aren't ready, right? They're going to bring up people next year to start from Iowa, and then it's like, what is that going to look like? You can't have 3 guys called up and produce right away. This is not going to happen. And then they're not willing to spend money. So it's like,
right.
Where does that leave you?
With the prospects, like, how do we know they're not ready? I mean, the only way we'll know they're not ready is if they get a shot. And the thing the thing I was saying before, like, there's a lot of guys in this roster who are locked in, and it's if Matt Shaw hits, and if Owen Casey hits, and Kevin Alcantara hits, and Moises Ballesteros, if he hits, like, you gotta find a place on the roster for them. Like, they can't be sitting in AAA. But you have guys locked, like Seiya, Dansby, Nico, Ian Happ. Like, they're all locked into deals. So and you're not going to sit. You're not going to sit PCA. No. PCA is not going to sit, and he doesn't deserve to sit. He deserves to play. He single-handed his defense last night. Single-handedly saved them the game.
Yes.
Him making plays. So, but I mean, eventually, like, these guys you're just going to have to give them a shot and see what they can do. I think Matt Shaw with his bat, I think he's ready.
Can he?
I think he needs to be. Huh?
Can he
catch? No.
We need a catcher.
He cannot.
Can he try?
But we've been saying it all year and even last year, there's no one in this lineup who people fear. People don't fear anybody. You want guys like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., or you want Shohei Ohtani, you want Bobby Witt, you want Aaron Judge, you want Juan Soto. You want guys you want to be intentionally walked with the bases empty, like Rafi Devers. Like, you want to have guys in that lineup who people are scared of, who can end a game at any point when they're in that box.
I like Michael Busch. I do.
Yes,
he's had a great year. He's had a really good defensive year at first base. I'm sorry, if you have a chance to sign Vlad Guerrero Jr. and bring that bat to Wrigley Field, I'm sorry, Michael Busch is moving to the bench. I he's a great piece. I like him as a person. I wish Craig would have left him in against lefties a little more instead of going to Wisdom quickly.
Yeah.
But you need, and that's when I think he says it's going to be hard, and not just from because we can't move anybody. Some nice guys, like Busch made an amazing play today. He went over the tarp, caught it against the netting, kind of Rizzo-esque, but again, great defensive player. It just, you can upgrade that position. That is a possibility. You're right.
You need to upgrade it. You need to upgrade it.
Catcher is a must. You must get a better catcher. Defensively and hitting, you must get a better catcher. Paredes at third, I'm fine with. Again, the middle is fine. But you're right. There's not a ton of options where you can improve. You have to get a closer. I don't know what else to say. You have to sign a big name closer. You need to spend money in your bullpen. You have to.
And they need to sign a starting pitcher because Kyle's done.
Yes.
So they need if Corbin Burns and Max Fried are out there, something in the back of my head is telling me that Max Fried already signed an extension. He was a free agent at one point. I know Corbin for sure is a guy. He has a history with Craig. If they went out and got him, that would send a statement to the rest of the division and the rest of the league that these guys are serious. Yeah. But the Dodgers have all the money in the world, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went after him. But you have to, I agree with the bullpen for sure, but you got to get a frontline starter. Like, Justin Steele is fantastic. Shota's fantastic, but neither guy's a number one. You need to go out and get a number one, and he's there.
Yeah.
And he's pitching great.
Yeah. And the bigger problem, too, and it's not even a problem, it's a good thing, is I feel like the talent evaluation for the offseason additions was good. Shota has been great, right? They said the home run ball might catch him, and it did a couple times this summer at Wrigley, but he's been better than Yamamoto. Yamamoto's been unavailable. Yamamoto's been inefficient at times. So, and granted, he's younger and he has a long way to go, but they gave him a lot of money. Shota was on a better deal, so that seems to have worked out. Michael Busch has been a great addition. The problem is they didn't do enough of these great additions. They just did a few. Right. Granted, they've worked out besides Hector Neris, but it was not enough this team was not enough. And again, here we are. Instead of last year where I was feeling a little more optimistic because it's like, oh, hey, we saw good baseball again. It's like, where are we now? And now we're in purgatory of a second consecutive missed playoffs, but we're a good team, kind of. Are we? So, yeah, it's just tough.
Well, and going back to like the analytics and people doing these scenarios of where teams will end up. They predicted the Cubs to be about 500, and that's where they're going to end up being.
Yeah.
If they, being generous here, say they win one of the next 2 games against the Nationals, take 1 or 2 from the Phillies, take 1 or 2 from the Reds, you're at about 84, 85 wins, which is about where they were last year. They were 83 and 79 last year, I believe. Right. So, yeah, I mean, you look at this team, another year of the same team, more same chemistry, add a couple pieces, but that's not where they're looking to be. They want to be contending, playoff contender. They want to be winning the division. Milwaukee's doing a lot more with a lot less. They're developing people. Something has got to change, and I'm glad that Craig said what he said.
Yeah, and the change will not be firing Craig Counsell because, again, if you've not been paying attention, the Cubs were 8 games under 500, and now they have made a 12-game leap to be over 500. This season was going in the toilet, and it still is because they're not going to make the playoffs. But before they moved on from Hector Neris, they were in a really bad spot. So Craig Counsell has gotten the most out of this team. He's done his work. He took an underachieving team and made them achieve more than they probably would have. But it's just uber frustrating. And now he's kind of venting that of like, hey, and this is what he was doing in Milwaukee. He's like, hey, give me some help. If you give me a little more, we can get there. We just didn't have, the talent. Well, this is kind of the same thing. But he can say that here, and there's something you can do. Because you know what?
Right.
The Cubs make so much money. You can't tell me they're hurting. Oh, the new season. No. Cubs are doing fine. They sell out Wrigley every single day. It's Friday at 1:20. Everyone's at work, but somehow there's 40,000 people at Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you're hurting. Go to Milwaukee on a Wednesday afternoon game and tell me how many people are there. Maybe 12, maybe 20 at the most in a 40,000. Like, come on. Don't tell me. I don't want to hear it. And you're charging double the price for everything else. No.
Everything, yeah.
Nope. We could switch a little bit to the Brewers because they ran away with the division. I feel like they played their best baseball in June.
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to see again, this is kind of my playoff prediction for them a little bit. The wild card's tough, man. You're going to play You're going to play a good team coming out. The Brewers they know how to win in the regular season. You either need to be ridiculously hot going into the playoffs or be extremely talented and let that talent kind of carry you through. I don't think the Brewers are either right now. They don't have the talent to carry them through, and they're not really hot right now. They're kind of just coasting into the playoff, winning a couple games here and there, not going on big losing streaks. They're not cold, but the other bit is too, we were kind of talking about this when we came to visit, but did they price themselves out of Willy Adames' range? The Jeff Kent of Milwaukee is having a career. He kind of bet on himself having a career year.
He did.
He's going to get a bag. He's going to get a lot of money.
He's going to get a lot of money.
I don't know if he's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's any chance he stays in Milwaukee?
I don't think there's any way he stays in Milwaukee. I will make a prediction right now. I think he ends up with the Dodgers. They need a shortstop. Need a shortstop. Yep. Mookie's not a shortstop. I could see Willy Adames ending up in LA. I could see that. And here's the thing. Willy Adames is a really likable guy. Willy Adames was the prospect, the shortstop prospect for the Rays back several years ago now. And obviously the Rays have just this incredible hot shortstop carousel where they just keep turning it over to the next guy, and he's good, if not better than the one before him. But yeah, I don't think there's any chance the Brewers have Adames in the offseason. They have a couple young shortstops in their system who are shooting their way through. So I don't know if they're going to be as concerned about it, but I don't think there's any way. He's had quite a season, and this is the kind of season you want to have in your contract year, and being semi young still.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's such a streaky hitter too, and I mean he's hit so many 3-run homers this year. The Brewers in general, how many grand slams? They hit like 6 in a week. Like it was like
they had a pretty historic streak.
They've hit their quota for the year for sure. Like they're not going to hit anymore, especially in the playoffs, because it's not allowed. You're not allowed to hit that many grand slams.
No.
But it's just they're a very streaky team at times, and it's just I agree that I mean the Dodgers are a team that could take on a Willie Adames, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't hurt them. Right? They just move on to the next one and whatever. But yeah, but
as far as their playoff matchup, they're probably gonna get San Diego or the Mets or the Diamondbacks, and I would not want to face the top star. I wouldn't want to face the Mets offense if I'm their pitching staff, and I wouldn't want to. I mean, even the San Diego, you're gonna get Darvish, Dylan Cease, Michael King, like those guys can be nasty. Darvish, since he came back from his absence, has been really good. Michael King's having a career year. He's nasty. Dylan Cease is nasty. You're going to get that Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen combo. You're going to get all the freaking firepower they have with their bats. Christian Walker's back. Yeah. Josh Bell. Ketel Marte, Gino Suarez. Yeah.
There's not a cupcake, and
there's gonna be gonna be another one and done for them. They're not good enough to beat any of those teams.
The other thing is, all three of those teams, as I just alluded to before, are scalding hot. So they're gonna come in ready to go. They're scoring a lot of runs. You're right. They have good pitching. That's just, I mean, San Diego is also, they're both. They're hot and very talented. So there's no prizes there. I think if you're Milwaukee, your best bet is to win as many games as possible down the stretch. And that's what's kind of fun about this, is there's no team running away with anything, really. No. Every team has something to play for. Even though the Brewers have clinched, they need to get in that 1 seed. They want to get out of the wild card round as fast as possible. So the best way to do that is to not play in it. I wouldn't want any, again, playoffs, you're going to play good teams. I wasn't sure when they expanded it to a third wild card if we would get good matchups. On both sides, you're going to get a good team all the way around. But whatever the Brewers do, it just seems like.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that you want to be playing your best baseball now.
Yeah.
You want to get into the playoffs. You want to anything you can do to squeak in. You want to squeak in if you're trying to squeak in. But you want to be playing your best baseball now. I saw an interview that I don't know if it was the Chicago Sports Network or who it was, but they were talking to Derek Lee. They were talking about that. I think it was the 2008 season, where it was just we were loaded. They won 97 games or something like that. And he said that the biggest problem was that we were in coast mode down the stretch. We were not playing our best baseball because we didn't have to. We were so far ahead. They went in a little bit light and they got ambushed. And they got knocked out. And that was a really talented team all the way around. But the exceptional offense. So you want to be playing your best baseball right now. And like you said, I don't think Milwaukee is, and they are going to be in for a rude awakening if they don't start turning it up for these last 8 or 9 games.
And and Philadelphia is also not playing their best baseball.
They're not.
So
no, not even close.
You might get a lot of that where you see multiple wildcard teams extend. And even last year, if you point back to my previous point about either you're hot or you're talented, the World Series was one team was really hot. The Rangers were much more talented, and the Rangers won. So you know what, you got to have one or the other. You can't be coasting in at all.
Yep.
Looking at the AL race too. How about the Tigers, man?
Woo! Yeah.
They were one. Javi Baez was addition by subtraction. Their record since he's been out has been lights out. They're tied now with Minnesota. I don't know who has the tiebreaker, but they're tied with Minnesota for that third wild card spot. They might squeak in. I thought
Yeah,
they were done. Like I was just kind
yeah,
of not really looking at it much closer. But in reality, the AL Central is possibly going to be represented 3 times, which
yes,
is kind of crazy considering they have the
it
worst
is.
team in baseball also in there. But
Right. Um, the Tigers, I mean, I I'm in Michigan, so I see more of their stuff. I go to their games at times when I can make it over to Detroit. But I've been saying, like, even last year, like, they ended so strong. And granted,
mhm,
I mean, Miggy wanting him to go out on a high note was good, but they were playing really good baseball. They had a
yeah,
lot of really nice, talented young players. So the Central, no one was really expecting the Indians to surge like they have. People really thought it was the Twins division going into it, and then you have Cleveland and Kansas City both surge, and the Tigers are kind of left in the dust. Well, Tigers at the break were sellers. Jack Flaherty was their best pitcher. Shipped him off to LA. That was like kind of the first thing. All right, they're mailing it in. They moved on from Gio Urshela, who was doing pretty decent. Um, they moved on from a couple of key bullpen pieces, but they just kept winning. Like they got Kerry Carpenter missed most of the season with a back injury. He came back and he's been incredible. Matt Vierling, Torkelson spent quite a few games down in the minors. They were trying to get him to figure out his swing and get back. He has been scalding hot since he's been back. They just had Riley Green is having a career year,
mm,
and they're pitching really well. Tariq Skubal's probably going to win the Cy Young for the AL. He's the best
yeah,
pitcher in the American League. I kind of called that going into the season. I thought he was going to be the dark horse for the Cy Young. I'm not sure which episode I said that in, but I definitely said it for sure. But they have a really good bullpen. They have really nice players. It would be amazing for baseball and for the city of Detroit if the Tigers were able to sneak their way in and make a playoffs ahead of schedule. They have a
yeah.
lot of nice guys in the minor leagues coming through. It's fun to watch. I'm interested to see they're losing to the Orioles tonight, but they took the first couple games of the series against them. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to see that race kind of ramp up. It would be really cool for the Royals and the Tigers to both make it. The Royals are another team. It's been awesome to watch Bobby Witt really emerge as being one of the elite players in this league. It's been great to see Salvi rebound and just do amazing. Seth Lugo in his second full year as a starter, at least in the last couple of years, he's been more of like a utility pitcher, but really leading that and anchoring that starting rotation. It's fun. I really want to see those teams get to October and see what they can do. Maybe they can ruffle a few feathers.
Yeah, well, either get, like I said, you're either gonna get the Royals and Twins or Royals and Tigers. So I think those are the teams that you're gonna see. So good for the Central. I don't think that's as daunting as what we're seeing in the NL, but it's
Yeah.
interesting, right? It's it's local. We've been to all those stadiums. We kind of like know those teams, so that's fun as well. Another central note. I know you hate talking about the White Sox, but I feel like you do this every time. But um, did you see the latest thing on their strategy for next year? They want to
No.
they want to shave salary. So they essentially are saying we're going to be worse. If you thought we were bad this year, so that would come in the form. I mean, I don't know how you shave salary if you're like you get rid of Luis Robert, who doesn't cost you that much. You get rid of Yohan Moncada, who doesn't cost you much. You get rid of Andrew Benintendi, who like is still under $100 million. They're probably going to get rid of Crochet. There's nothing but garbage in their minor league system too. Colson Montgomery had a horrible year hitting, like he was not ready to come up. They thought at some point he would be playing. Again, when you have 35 wins, everyone can play. We should go try out for them. Um, but like that was the sentiment from Chris Getz is we're gonna look internally to fix this roster, okay, and we're gonna shave salary. What the heck is that? What does that even mean? I don't understand how you can, because you know what that means. You're gonna be worse next year than you
Yeah.
currently are.
This is the worst team ever.
It's the worst team ever, and your strategy is let's be worse. Like, it's not like more guys are coming. If you don't spend money and you don't make your roster better for next year, you're I mean, it's impossible probably to repeat this. They may just luck into some more wins in general.
Right.
But my God, how can that be your decision? Like that, right? Like that's impossible. And like it was an article that popped out, and I'm like, that is incredible. He's gonna lose his job really quickly.
Maybe I should reach out to Chris Getz and see if I can get him on and to get him to explain himself. You want to come onto our 17 follower podcast and explain yourself?
He did. He had a press conference and like made these like it wasn't like people were like misquoting him. It was like, no, yeah, we're looking to shed salary cap. So like I don't know. Again, Luis Robert to me can't stay healthy. I don't think he has a ton of value. That's fine if you think you can get something for him and trade him, but like, man, I don't know. Sorry.
I'm glad that baseball saw that and that no organization gave up an arm and a leg to get him. They just like, nope, we're good, fam. We're good. I'm good, homie. I don't need this. Guy hits 220, like never can stay on the field, non-contact injuries. See you later.
And it's funny though too, because like
I don't need any of that.
Eloy is playing for Baltimore, and he's been getting regular at bats, and he seems healthy for the first time in his career. So I don't know if there's just something going on over there or something they're putting in the water.
It must be that you're just like maybe they're like that there's like uranium buried under the field, and you just feel worse and play worse when you're there. I mean, great food though. They have great food.
They gotta have something. MVP of the team is the milkshake for this year, but
the food, the campfire milkshake, the grilled onions,
and the Polish,
and the Polish, the Polish sausage.
But it's just unfathomable. I mean, what the A's are doing is unforgivable, right? They're abandoning their team and their city, and they're not trying to win and whatever. But like, this is like a different level. It's like, no, we're gonna stay and we're gonna do all this stuff, and we're still gonna be even like it's. Yeah. And I don't even care. I'm not even a White Sox fan, but just to see that like in direct quotes of like, yeah, we're gonna do. It's like, I don't know. So sorry for any White Sox fans. If you haven't seen the article, you're welcome. You don't have to watch next year either. So I'm gonna save you a lot of time. Just to spotlight, and I guess we can kind of your own opinion on the matter. Shohei Ohtani, again, doing ridiculous things. He created the 50-50 club on the same night that he hit 3 home runs, had 10 RBIs, and
went 6 for 6.
Went 6 for 6.
And he got his stolen bases too. He got
yeah. And you know what? Yeah, his numbers are crazy. I don't think he should ever really pitch again. The Dodgers are getting their money's worth out of his bat. I wish the Cubs had that bat, right? He's showing that he can play in September, which is something he didn't do. Maybe that was a motivation issue in Anaheim.
Right.
My gut reaction, though, to his historic night is, why did the Marlins throw him another pitch? You know what this guy does. And he's susceptible to the strikeout. He does strike out. He's not hitting 400. He's hitting 290, maybe 294 after last night.
Yeah.
Why do you continue to throw the ball not at his back? You had a position player pitching the last home run. Also, when you're stealing that late in the game, come on, dude. I know you want your 50-50, but like, let's back off a little bit. You'll get it.
Didn't Acuna do the same thing when he got his 70th stolen base? Like he stole in like a non-competitive spot or something.
That's the stat padding, and that's where like again the historic game. It's like, you know, it's the Marlins, and again your last like a bat or two is against a position player. But I would be putting that ball directly between his numbers at 50 miles an hour and just say go to first, or intentionally walk him at that point. Any other response? I mean, he's the MVP, right? He's the NL MVP.
Yeah.
He'll be the first DH in the NL to win MVP. No questions about that.
The biggest thing for me, and I mean, for a while there, I kind of brought Ketel Marte's name into the fold. He ended up getting injured, and then down the stretch with as well as the Mets were playing, people were saying Lindor's odds went way up, and then he has been dealing with a back injury. So yeah, I mean, the big thing with you and I is that like he's just a DH. He doesn't contribute anything else aside from his insane offensive prowess. Um, but the biggest thing that's hard for me to get past is that like it's unbelievable what he's doing, but why do I not feel impressed? Why am I not more excited about him doing these things? I feel like if it was a different player, I would be more excited. But I think he's just created such an example of what the ultimate player would be that we're just like numb to the fact that he's doing these incredible things. And yeah, he just created a club that no one else has been in before, which is amazing. But I don't know. Like there's just something about it where I mean he's playing in the most relaxed organization that you can play in. He's has more money than he'll ever know what to do with. He's
Not
in
yet.
a stacked lineup with two of the best
Deferred
players
money.
in the yeah, he's in a stacked lineup with probably the best first baseman of this generation and the best right fielder of this generation.
Yeah.
So like I guess like he goes from a place where it's him and Mike Trout and no one else. And we weren't impressed by that because they weren't winning. And now he's in an organization with all these superstars, and we're not impressed by the fact that he's putting up these numbers with this organization. So it's
Have,
kind of a weird spot to be in.
have
I
you
like
seen?
Shohei a lot. I think he's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's an awesome guy. At least I've never met the guy before,
Yeah.
but I don't know, just something about it. Like I'm just not excited about it. I'm just
Yeah.
not excited. I don't know if it's because I don't like the Dodgers and he plays for the Dodgers, but for me, my baseball fandom goes beyond my loyalty to teams. Like
Yeah.
I want to see good players play well. He's a great player, and I like seeing him play well. But there's just something about it where I'm not excited
Yeah.
about Shohei putting up these numbers.
Yeah. I guess I have two. Did you see the thing after the World Baseball Classic where it was Otani and Trout? You know, because Trout was the last out for the U.S. And it was like, could you imagine if you paired up these two on the same team? But it was just that was a funny thing. But I think too the thing with Otani that we have seen in the past is when because he's this Babe Ruth like character who can pitch and hit, right? When he has done both, he has not done both well. The pitching affects the hitting. Well, now we're getting to see what just the hitter looks like, and I would say you don't need the pitcher
No.
because the pitcher is injury prone. The pitcher makes him not steal as many bases because he's fatigued, right? Because he's pitching. The pitcher can get in the way of his at bats when he pitches aren't as good, right? Like they have huge statistics on that. Like it was like, oh, like that's why Epe used to like bet on those games, or we don't really know what happened with that. But like statistically, the games that he
Sweep it under the rug.
right, exactly, we'll never know. But like statistically, he hits worse in games he pitches, and like there's a couple games where he hit a home run, right, and he helps himself out. But like I think the Dodgers really need to evaluate if it is worth putting him on the mound and potentially messing up. Because, like, that's part of why he hasn't played in September, ever. And why he's never played in October. Because he can't stay on the field. So, I think he's an anomaly. I think what he's doing is amazing this year at the plate. Do you want your guy to contribute more? Sure. But, like, for him, that looks like pitching, and I think that takes away from his just how special of a season he's having. So I think that's why
And they
we're not
don't
impressed.
need him. They don't. They're honestly their starting pitching this year has been trash. They could have used a nice arm, but they can go out and get it. Like they can go out and spend ungodly amounts of money and get that. Keep your asset on the field, just like the Yankees. The Yankees moved Aaron Judge to center field. It has paid off for them. He's had his first healthy season in a very long time. You got to protect these special assets. If he's a game-changing player on the offensive end, they don't need him to play the field, and they don't need him to pitch. It's simple as that. Like if you want him to keep having seasons like this, if you want him to stay on the field, regardless of deferred money, he's a $70 million a year player. So keep him on the field. You have to do it.
They paid him $700 million, right, to do both. You know what? I You think he could play center field? I think he could play center field. He's
Oh,
fast.
100%.
He's tall. I think he'd be more valuable out there instead of putting Enrique Hernandez out there, right? Like, then you have a free DH slot for someone who can't run. Like, I don't know.
Right.
I think there's more you could do with it. They're going to try him on the mound next year. You know they're going to do it. There's rumors that he's going to be ready to pitch by the postseason, that he may come out as a closer. Okay, maybe that's an option. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. The Dodgers typically don't need a closer very much because they're usually blowing teams out. So, but in the postseason, you need that guy. And hey, I mean, I would put him on the mound in Game 7 of the World Series. If he says he can go, yeah, sure, go try it. But as a starter to grind through 162 games as a hitter, plus another 30 as a pitcher, that's a lot. That's a lot to ask.
A lot.
So I think he'd just be less effective. And that's kind of the sentiment I'm getting is people are just like, you don't need it. You don't need the arm. Just go buy it. You're like you just said, go buy something else.
Right. And we'll see how desperate they get because their starting pitching's not good. And I think they're going to get into some dire straits coming up here soon.
Which is, again, hilarious because they spent so much money on it. And now Glass is out. And
yeah. So Glass is not going to pitch for the rest of the year. Yamamoto has not been able to go 5 innings since he came back. Kershaw's not going to be back. Who knows until I don't know how long he's going to be out. Bobby Miller's locker got cleaned out, so he's not there. He hasn't had a great year. Gavin Stone, their rookie, has really been the only guy who's been there all year and pitched well. So you have to have you can't do bullpen games in the playoffs. You can try. It doesn't really work too well.
Or Dodgers. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well. Yeah. I don't feel bad.
No.
Yeah. We'll see who they play. I mean, they might have to play a divisional opponent, and that will be tough too.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll finish with this. You can't help notice we're kind of at the end of the year. The stats have kind of started to compile. And then you really can see some, to me, surprising numbers. The first one, especially because last year they had Emmanuel Rivera playing third base quite a bit. The emergence of, I'll say it how Pat Hughes says it, Eugenio Suarez, Gino Suarez over at third. He was great for Cincinnati. He put up these kind of numbers, 6-7 years ago, but the guy is doing it again for a good team, and a lot of it's lately. But I mean, the baseball card does a lot. He's hitting 254, 97 RBIs, and 28 homers. That is like prime Gino Suarez numbers, and it's really cool to see just him finish the year strong. And he's on a contender, and he's hitting well. We've kind of been used to seeing him hit like 200 the last couple of years, so that's a huge jump. I think last year he was at 212. So the power was always there. But again, just like his name popped up and I'm like, oh, he's still starting for Arizona. Oh, he's actually doing really well. And just especially after Emmanuel Rivera yesterday had a ball to the warning track and got told to get in the weight room. So that's by the outfielder that caught it. So
he's playing a good third base as well.
Yes.
Which is good. And their Diamondbacks are statistically one of the best defenses in the league. So he's contributing both ways. I think what needed to happen, he just had to get out of that Seattle offensive hole. I mean, that's not apparently it's not a good place to try to play offense because he went into a little bit of a dark place there for a little bit, but good to see him again, man. Diamondbacks are fun to watch. They're a fun team. We like Torey Luvello. I'm glad that they're back, and I'm glad that they're still playing well, and I hope that they mess with some teams and make another run. That'd be fun. Yeah,
and the other guy who we didn't watch too much Oakland baseball because Ryan got sent down, and now he's back up. But I've seen his numbers go good this entire year, and I can't believe they didn't move him at the deadline. 30-year-old Brent Rooker is hitting 304, 110 RBIs, 38 home runs. I don't know what contender wouldn't need that out of their DH. He's making a ton of contact, good contact. Again, you're hitting 304 in this day and age. That's phenomenal. And I don't know what Oakland's doing with him. Are they going to move him in the offseason? Like, he is he's as valuable as he's ever going to be this year. This is a career year. He was a journeyman last year, but he hit 30 home runs. But the 110 RBIs is more eye-opening because that's a lot of production. I know RBIs sometimes are luck. That's a lot of production from a guy on a bad team that is already eliminated. They won more games than I thought they would, but still not a great team. Should look to get every asset they can, but almost having one of those like good but forgotten about seasons. That's why I like bringing him up because it's just like you get your flowers a little bit. But just what he's been able to do in Oakland is, especially with just everything with the fans and just still being able to produce, is pretty cool.
I saw a crazy stat. It was probably about, I think it was like a week and a half ago. So they brought up the Judge and Soto combo. They're like, they've driven in since the All-Star break X number of runs. They've hit X number of home runs. Like their OPS was this. Like they brought all the key offensive stats that you'd like to see. Then they brought up Brent Rooker and Lawrence Butler. And the two of them eclipsed Judge and Soto in all those categories. Higher combined OPS, more RBIs, more home runs. So Rooker and Lawrence Butler, since he has come back up, has been unreal. Ryan ranted and raved about him when we talked to him in the offseason. Like, this kid is a freak of an athlete. He's got insane power, and he's still trying to figure baseball out. Like, baseball is not something that Lawrence Butler has figured out yet. He's continuing to get better and figure this game out. And if this is any indication of that, man, he has got a very bright future. But I just thought it wasn't even funny. It was just amazing to see that those two guys are just, and see it you're looking in the lineup, you're looking in the box scores as we like to do for just to see what's going on. And it's like, 2 hits, 3 hits, like 4 RBIs, 5 RBIs, like swatting homers. And
Brent Rooker had a 20-plus game on base streak, and Lawrence Butler had a 10-plus game hitting streak. And you're right, like beginning of the year, Lawrence Butler in right field was it was horrible. I don't know. There's not a good way to say it. He was reckless with the ball. He didn't catch the ball. He was throwing it all over the place. He got sent down, hit like 400 in the PCL, came right back up, and he's been good. Like, he's been good defensively. He's been focused. He's been controlled with his bat. Yeah, Ryan was on it because like he said, watch out for this guy. No kidding. He's been phenomenal. He's hitting like 270 now. Yeah. Before he got sent down, he was hitting like 190, and it's like, what is this guy doing? He's just swinging at everything. The defense to me was concerning because like you can't play subpar defense at the major league level. That's just not going to work, especially when you're doing it that way. But he was like airmailing janitor throws into the stands. Like he was just unleashing, and like Ryan was just raving about like not just his defense, but the defense as a team. Like, we've really cleaned it up, and I think in the first couple games they had like 6 errors. Like they were just booting the ball everywhere. But Nick Allen got sent down too, and then Nick Allen led the PCL in hitting and got called back up. So these guys again,
the PCL's a hitters league, but it has translated for Butler. Even Geloff got moved down. Like all these.
Geloff never went down this year. He's continued to just not hit. Again, he's got immense power. He's got great speed. Right. It just didn't click. But you go on about Oakland. But Lawrence Butler is another great one to highlight because he's had a phenomenal second half, and he's become a weapon. And I said that power is in there, and he's just controlling it, and it looks smooth. He's got a great left-hand swing. The homer he hit at Wrigley last week was like a moonshot. It's fun to watch when guys start to figure it out and start to not respect the game, but like defensively, there's just certain things you can't do, and he was certainly doing all of them in April and May. So
doesn't he have like a couple 3 homer games too? I know he has at least one.
Oh, he's made up for lost time. That's for sure. I'm gonna take it to the other side of the ball. So my 2 surprise seasons. First one is Chris Sale. Chris Sale is your NL
Cy Young. runaway favorite for the NL Cy Young. Chris Sale, we weren't really too sure what the rest of his career was going to look like. He was the first one to tell you that he wishes that he could take back all the frustration and the disappointment that he not that he did it purposely, but just the pain and suffering inflicted on the Red Sox fans by him not being able to go out and pitch. This guy is the fiercest competitor in the game, and has been his entire career, but had lots of injuries. Hadn't pitched more than 25 outings since 2019. He'd not even close to 20 starts. But this year, 28 starts, 18-3 record, 225 Ks, has an ERA below 2.5, has a WHIP that's almost below 1. He doesn't walk people. He has been really the best pitcher on the Braves, quite literally. I mean, Max Fried has had a nice year, but pitching was a big problem for them last year. Starting pitching, they just weren't healthy, especially in the playoffs. They didn't have anybody. Spencer Strider going down really early after his first start of the season. So Chris Sale really was able to step in and be the ace of the staff and show baseball that, hey, I still have this at 34, 35 years old. Just fantastic what he's been able to do. I'm not too disappointed if they don't make the playoffs, but I'm really glad that I'd rather see the Mets make it. I'd rather see some of these other teams make it over the Braves. They're still chasing. I think they're about 2 games out at the moment from a wild card spot, but can't say enough about what he's been able to do, and just the way that he's responded after just a lot of seasons of frustration. And then my second guy is Mr. Seth Lugo. He has had an incredible year, best year as a pro, best year as a starting pitcher. Him and Cole Reagans have been the front runners on that starting staff, really have propelled them forward on the pitching end of things. He has 16 wins this year, which is a career high, 197 innings pitched, career high. His ERA is 3.05. That's a career low as a starter. He's got over 175 strikeouts. Nasty curveball. He's the guy who he's the poster child for the spin rate on that curveball. He can make people look ridiculous, but just cool to see some kind of like reclamation projects. He had been kind of a utility pitcher with the Mets, had closed some games, had been really effective as a middle reliever. Pitched pretty decent last year for the Padres in a starting role, and signed as a free agent on a short-term deal with the Royals. And no one was expecting the Royals to be where they're at, and here they are knocking on the door, possibly looking to make the playoffs. So just cool to see these guys, especially like Lugo, who's been just a really solid major league pitcher for a long time, to experience success in this way with this team.
Not gonna lie, I was waiting for you to say what team he's on, because I only remember as a Met. I'm like, what team is Seth Lugo on? I was like, you're gonna let me know here in a second.
Yeah.
One other pitcher, that I hadn't. Well, I thought about, but like, because I see his box score all the time. Sean Manaea has been so good for the Mets.
Yes.
And he's been like, everyone's trash. They're like, oh yeah, let's move him to San Diego. Oh, he stinks. Oh, let's move him here. Like, he's been the catalyst for that Mets pitching staff. So yeah, to add another to the pitching list, Sean Manaea has had an incredible year. And he's a good pitcher. I don't understand why he's been bounced around so much. He is a good pitcher, and he's kind of found his stride. I feel like Mets fans too. It's like, you know what? Calm down a little bit. You have a really good roster with really good players. If Francisco Lindor hits 200 in April, it's okay. It's a long season. He's a really good player.
Right.
So that's another thing, is that they just, and I know they want to win so bad. That's all it is. But like, there was people in April and May, they're like, the season's over. It's over. And yeah, it didn't look good, but like, same with the Astros. Like, the Astros are going to make playoffs again. They're fine. Just is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Mets are concerned, I mean, Lindor, you know what he's capable of. Yeah. You gave him a lot of money to be a superstar. Brandon Nimmo got a huge contract, maybe more money than he should have gotten, and he wasn't hitting too well. you as a Mets fan, you're always going to be the redheaded step kid in that town. You're always going to be little brother. You're always going to be overlooked, and they're a team that they've never been afraid to spend money. Like we talk about the Cubs not spending money, the Mets are never afraid to spend money. They spend money, they take risks. Most of the time, especially recently, it hasn't worked out. But being a baseball fan, I look at their roster and I find myself rooting for them. Like
Yes.
I wouldn't say I've ever hated the Mets. I've hated the Yankees at times in my life, but the Mets I've never hated.
I
I think it's
hated the
because I haven't
Mets
seen.
when they were a pain in the Cubs side from 15 through 18 when
Right.
they were making all those. Basically, you had to go through the Mets to get to the World Series.
Well,
I hated the Mets.
you had to go through Daniel Murphy.
Yeah.
He was the Cubs killer, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess yeah. Then during that time, like you don't want to see the Mets win, but just looking at their roster, like how it's assembled, the players they have, um, I really find myself having a soft spot for them, at least in this season. I'm a big Francisco Lindor guy. I've always liked him a lot.
Yeah.
I am one of the biggest Jose Iglesias advocates that there could be. His impact on this team in his 80 games that he's played with them is just unreal.
He's
The
another
guy's
guy
hitting over
we've
three.
discussed at length. I don't
Yeah,
understand why he continues to not be on someone's roster. He
yeah.
hits really good and he plays Gold Glove infield. I don't understand. He can play three positions, probably
Yeah.
more if you let him. He's a catalyst. He can fill in where you need him to be. He's 34 now, but like, gosh, he's just been so productive for the last 6-7 years, and just makes no
He
sense.
has a 282 career batting average, and this was a guy who they said couldn't hit.
Right.
Like
I remember on the
he's
Red
not.
Sox. Yeah, he couldn't hit. Yeah, well,
He couldn't. Yeah. Well, he is just unbelievable. I listened to the Digging Deep
yeah,
podcast and
yep. I saw that.
Haas and yeah, Haas and Peter Moylan and Justin Sua had him on, and for 45 minutes, just
Yep.
listening to him talk about baseball, talk about his journey. Like I have always been a huge Jose Iglesias fan. He's just a wizard. But I don't know. You just watch him play, and he is embraced by this Mets team. The Mets team, his teammates love him. The fans love him, and he's been a real big spark plug for them. And then you got guys like Pete Alonso. Mark Vientos is having a really nice season. Brandon Nimmo's really rebounded. Marte's making his way back. JD Martinez, another professional hitter on this team,
Yeah, another
doing
guy the Cubs should
well.
have signed.
Yeah. Then you got Alvarez. I know you're not a huge Alvarez fan, but he's done really well behind the plate. You got guys like Sean Manaea and David Peterson really doing well in that starting rotation. So they're just a fun team to watch. They've been playing winning baseball. Lindor has emerged as a true leader in New York and for this team. And I'm hoping that they get him back healthy soon, so we can help them make a little bit of a playoff run. But they're just a fun team. They're a fun team to watch. It's been cool to see them beat good teams and be right in the race again.
Well, as we said earlier, these are all these teams in wild card, not teams I want to play. If I was Milwaukee
No.
sitting in that perch, yeah, for sure, it'll be a fun postseason because now we are almost done talking about Cubs baseball. We can talk about
Yeah.
the teams that actually are doing something and contributing to our sanity.
Right.
But until then, we'll see. Once the Cubs are statistically eliminated, I thought they would be eliminated already by now. 7 games out of the wild card. Oh well. Next year, Craig laying down the hammer.
Yeah.
But until then, booze come in pairs. Take it easy, guys.
Peace.